Celebrating the 4th of July, Truefire are running a Stars, Stripes and Strings sale, providing 60% off of their all-access pass. If you're interested in that you can dip in and out of every single thing on Truefire. Really great value for money. Also, they got 50% off of some individual courses, so check out the link in the description if you're interested in that. So it wasn't that long ago that I had kind of thought that I really should be gigging this guitar, and that for some reason, like, if not, that I'm sort of missing out on a bunch of stuff, but also potentially that whether it's something I wouldn't necessarily deserve to have. And I've certainly seen this before, like when people look at folks like Joe Bonamassa, like it's somewhat validating that they are willing to take those guitars out and gig them and give them like a life on stage, which I do appreciate. And I do kind of get that that's a really cool thing if you're able to do that sort of thing. But at the same time, I've kind of had a bit of a shift in mindset around this, to the point where I now think, well, you know, obviously this isn't the case for everyone, because I don't know what percentage of you guys even watch this even do gigs, and probably a bunch of you are totally happy not doing wedding gigs. Do you know what I mean? So I kind of had a kind of change of heart on this, and I thought it's okay to not take this out and put it at risk if it's something that really matters to me. Let's get into it a bit. So the initial reason that I kind of was not gigging this guitar was because it's kind of my most special to me guitar. Now, it's not my most expensive guitar. It costs like £850, I think. I bought it off the fretboard forum. A guy up the road was selling it. At the time, K-Line were a little bit of an unknown-ish thing. I could find a few like reviews online and stuff like that, but it wasn't like they were a huge name. But it was like a legitimate alternative to like a Fender custom shop, like a Nash, that sort of thing. Nash, SVL were kind of more well-known brands around the time, Danacaster, all that sort of stuff. But K-Line, I took a risk on it. I wasn't totally sold on the headstock, wasn't totally sold on the colour, but I thought, you know what, at this amount of money, I can afford to give this a go. Now, I did gig this guitar for a while, but most of my playing, and this is, I think, the case for almost everyone, except for maybe like the very highest level touring guitarists, and there's going to be other reasons why these guys probably wouldn't want to take their favourite guitars on the road either. But, so, I kind of did some maths on this. Like, my busiest year was like 180 gigs. It turns out that most of them were on like piano anyway, probably, or keyboard. But, you know, if you had 180 gigs in a year, you would do 360 hours basically on a guitar. Now, actually, when you think about it, that is not a huge amount of time. When I kind of offset that against the risk of not having the guitar that basically every day I would pick up. So I gigged this last Saturday, and it was cool, but it wasn't like it was a marquee gig. I didn't necessarily feel the most comfortable that I've felt playing it, was kind of how I felt. And it's also, I think, the case that there are some guitars which really suit you live, and there are some guitars like this one which really suit me at home. And I think that's okay too. I'm quite late to this in that I think I might have been using the wrong guitar live for quite a few years now, when I've jumped onto a Les Paul and I find it really comfortable. I'll call you back in a sec.
Why?
Because I'm filming a video.
That's just not okay.
Alright, speak to you in a bit.
Bye.
And I think maybe a Les Paul, actually, for quite a lot of the gigs that I've been doing, is actually a better tool for it. So, yes, in terms of actual time that you're spending on a gig, so I was thinking like all of these pretty bits of wear and stuff like that happen on a guitar come from a gig, but then I actually think about it, like the time it takes to wear a neck down like this, you're not going to do that in 360 hours of gigging. It's going to need to be a guitar that you play a lot at home, and that, I think the home thing is where you get most hours in on a guitar. Like if I was practicing 2 hours a day over the year, I would get in 730 hours of practice, whereas the actual gigs that I do, about like 66 hours or something like that, if I'm doing 30, 40 gigs a year. Like actually the things that's going to make this guitar have more character, aside from stupid stuff like maybe it falling off a stand at a gig, it's going to happen at home. And that's sometimes really annoying things happen on a gig. Like I think this was from like a set of suspenders. That's not what you call them, is it? What are those things called? Braces, suspenders, different thing, different sort of gig that. But you don't have to put your prized possessions at risk for the sake of validating your purchase, is what I think. And if you are comfortable gigging some really cool gear, then I think that's great too. But, you know, playing the guitar at home is just as valid, and you're going to be doing more of that anyway. So I think it's actually totally valid to have a guitar that you only really play at home, right? If you've got a really special gig, I might take this out. I played this at Real World Studios with Mark Kelly from Meridian. You know, if it's a really great opportunity or some gig that I think actually I need my Strat for, then I would take this. But for any other, you know, a wedding in Scunthorpe or Dog and Duck down in Lyme Regis or whatever, why would I take my favourite guitar? Why would I take my most expensive guitar? I'm going to take a guitar which I can use on the job, not be thinking the whole time like, well, what happens if that falls over, all that sort of stuff. And I don't need to think that that's meaning that I don't deserve to own that guitar. I think it's fine. Likewise, if you've got amps that you own that actually aren't appropriate for a bunch of your gigs, doesn't mean you have to suddenly sell them. If they get used occasionally, that's fine too. I've been sort of beating myself up around this, and I was thinking, do I take my Nacho to a gig tonight? And I thought, actually, why am I thinking that I need to risk that? Let's take the guitar that's right for the gig. I'll take a backup. I'll take something that, you know, if it's set fire, like this PRS Silver Sky, I wouldn't mind. Do you know what I mean? Take the guitars that are not so sentimental to the gigs that don't matter if you're doing gigs of no consequence like I am. That's what I've determined would be a good idea today. So I'm taking the PRS, I'm taking my K-Line Les Paul. More to follow. Cheers for stopping by.